should say, I want to agree with Honorable Babu that the political parties, as we know it, have failed really as institutions and organs um, through which leaders would coalesce, come up with the policies, build up some ideology, and go out and sell it to the population so that they through them, they can achieve political power, implement it, and should be for the good of the people of Uganda. We experimented with the movement political system for a while, and we were electing individuals on the basis of their merit, and we actually brought very high quality members of parliament for the time when we had the individual merit system. But many people actually believed and said, okay, we can elect members of parliament, but it's very difficult to change the presidency because we don't have groupings or a political organization under which we can develop policies or programs and sell to the population and have a candidate. So the multi-party system was viewed as the best alternative to the movement political system. And indeed, President Museveni was one of the leaders who campaigned during the referendum, campaigned to allow political party system to come to effect. So ever since that time, where has our problem been? Our problem has been around, number one, the political organizations are built around individuals. It's a kind of cultism that has taken over. You look at any political organization or political party. If you look at UPC, you can't go past Obote. It's difficult. If you look at FDC, Besigye has remained an historical leader, and he decides a lot of things that happen within FDC. Now, for NRM, it's actually very clear. I remember, Honorable Mukula, who has now moved to PLU, and Honorable Okotobong tried to maneuver to say they wanted to be the chairman of the NRM. I think the rest is history. Right now, with the NUP, Chagolanyi has become like a cult leader. You can't bypass him. So our failure is that the leaders who head these political organizations, political parties, are much bigger than the institutions themselves. It's very difficult to remove a leader in those political parties, and they have a lot of say. Look at, take a quick example of ANC. ANC, the party is more powerful than the president. We haven't reached there yet. Can we reach there? Go across in Tanzania here. CCM, when your term comes, you go. And there is a process in which leaders are developed through the political organization, and people are certain that after this person has done his 2 terms, their leaders being groomed, and there's a pipe through which confidence is built that, me, I can actually take a shot at the presidency. Now, what is happening where my brothers here, for example, in the PLU, for me, I consider it to be an offshoot. I said it last week. It's an offshoot of NRM. And I personally, I think it was a strategic action to neutralize the NUP leader. Because you see, we must accept that we are all aging. Now, the leaders who came here in 1986, to date, they are no longer young people. They're elders, they are beyond 70 years. Now, if you're above 70 years now, our population, 35 years and below, they constitute almost 75% of our population. So they are looking up to new leaders. That's why you find Chagulanyi, who was just yesterday a musician. Look at the following that he carries. So me, I thought this would be an attempt to kind of neutralize that. But what surprised me, though, is that the leaders of NRM, because me, I thought PLU, even MK program, was for much younger people. So you get MK there with these young boys and girls to kind of neutralize NUP. But surprisingly, the leaders of NRM, the ministers, MPs, they're all now running there. And I had the opportunity to talk to some of them, and the ones I do respect in parliament. You know what they say? No, 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 you stay there for me. You stay in your NRM for us. We are moving. Power is moving there. I can't stay this side. So the leaders actually have become despisable. Why? It's now more about groceries than the future of the country. Because if you ask, you see, NRM has been elected for a 5-year term and to deliver on a manifesto. Now, you can't have ministers saying, there's corruption there. There is, they are failing to implement government programs. And I'm a minister in the government. So when you are in government, your work is to deliver on the manifesto for which the government was elected, the party was elected. If the pressure groups are doing their things, they said, young boys and girls, go and put pressure on them, you are offshoot. But for us as leaders, we are going to remain here. So I'm asking myself within NRM, and I said last week that if the way I'm looking at things, if PLU becomes a political party, it will mark the death of NRM. Because as you see today, the NRM leaders have moved to PLU, and opportunistically so, because they believe General Muhoozi would most likely be president. And how should I align myself and make sure that I'm in the good books, I'm seen to be associated? And the minister has talked about corruption. Amongst that group, there are people who have been arraigned in court for corruption practices. Their names are mentioned for corruption.
Allegedly.
Alleged, yes, alleged for corruption. Now you can't fight corruption when you have to fight in a court of law. So,
but Honorable Mara, let me ask a question. Why is the president tolerating this? In your thinking, as an economist, why tolerate this and also the pendulum swinging around?
So I think the debate here is political party good anymore, or we go to individual merit? What I'm seeing is that with the scenario which is happening now, I'm telling you, if I was the Secretary General of NRM, I would be asking at the moment what I would be doing. Because my people have left. There is a new baby in town called PLU. And I'm seated here. I don't know even where to start from. Your members are saying, no, we are now there. Whether it's a pressure group, it is still not registered, but your members have moved. So the question then would be, where is the strength? And by the way, Timothy and the viewers, in the meeting of the PLU, all district chairmen of NRM were invited to Kampala. They attended the function. So, which means it's a fusion between of NRM and PLU. There's a fusion. Whether you like it or not. So the question now is the NRM as a political organization still in existence, or is now metamorphosing into a PLU? Which means now the political party of NRM as we know it, sooner or later it won't exist. It won't exist. So the question is, are political parties in themselves vehicle for achieving something great for us with a well-defined ideology, or you can use and discard as you wish?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Joseph, let me come to you. And we'll say from Captain Francis Babu, Honorable Mara, but when we come to the UPC that seems to be in bed with the NRM, and where do you fall, especially on the desires of Ugandans to see service delivery? You have a cloud of the late Dr. Milton Obode over your heads, and you seem not to be moving, and seemingly parties are not delivering what Ugandans yearn for.
From a personal perspective, there is a little bit of frustration, as it were, on this very topic. And as I was coming to your studios, I was wondering, is this the topic of conversation we should be having? As it were, the question, as Paul has suggested, is almost like a debating thing of primary school granted, but at a higher level. multi-partism democracy versus a no-party monolithic, one-party motley thing called NRM. The obvious answer is it's a democracy, competitive polity, multi-partism. What happened in this country, before I come to your question, is that Mr. Museveni very sadly and his group mobilized and organized at a very critical time post Idi Amin, when we clamoring and reorganizing and mobilizing, and we had successfully held a very successful competitive multi-party elections in 1980, in which two very clear parties took their positions. UPC won convincingly, but DP was a very organized, sizable opposition and went to parliament as an opposition party. NRA, disregarding courts, opted for the bush. Granted, I'll make it a very quick one. When they came to power, somehow with the help of DP in 1985, they sought to ban political parties. When they sought to ban political parties, somewhere this motley thing called movement, no party thing, came up. I'll tell you, and those are somewhere in my memos with the details, that a major Southern African leader, since we talked about South Africa, is reported to have, in a meeting of SADC leaders, where Mr. Museveni addressed somewhere in the 90s, to have told SADC ambassadors somewhere else that Mr. Museveni went to brief them on this thing called movement political system. And I'm told this leader, a very eminent president, said, this guy came to tell us about this thing they're doing in their country, which none of us could understand, meaning pushing for this monolithic no-party system. But credit to Mr. Museveni, possibly history will tell him, when you look at political systems, that a movement political system has now gone into the dictionary books, that there is a system. Is it communism? What is it? Ban on political parties in 1985-86 was disastrous. From 1986, there are nuanced suggestions from the other side about this idea that political parties are bad, allegedly, for whatever reasons, and then what we need to do is to go for this personal merit monolithic thing. Unfortunately, they went for it, but they went for it and it was confined to as an individual as Mr. Museveni, and they've run with it for 40 years. What am I saying? Amidst that happening, political parties literally were dead for 20 years. Unfortunately, as we campaigned to return pluralism to this country in 2004, 2005, when we won in court because Mr. Museveni did not return pluralism, we fought for it and we won it. UPC won it, DP joined us onto that. Once we got that, unfortunately, that's an important point, our leader, in this case UPC's leader, died. By then, as we're returning to pluralism, and we'll go to some of the leadership things that people talk about, founder members, founder leaders. In UPC's case, Mama Miriam was rightly elected, reluctantly, as an interim leader for UPC.
Sorry, Joseph, allow me jump in there.
Yeah.
You said, and the leader died. Did he die with the ideology?
No, I will actually. It was my intention to give the ideological background, but I was giving you context maybe to save time. He didn't die with ideology, nor did he die with the party. My point was, once Obote died, Mama Miriam was legitimately, democratically elected as an interim leader. Beyond Mama Miriam, Olaro Tunu was elected democratically and freely as the leader of UPC 5 years later. Post Olaro Tunu, the election that should have replaced him is the quagmire which went to court. So it's actually not fair to UPC or indeed to this country to suggest that Jimmy Akena has followed his father, because Jimmy was not elected UPC leader. As you know, the Supreme Court ruled only the other few months that
But,
Jimmy is not leader.
Joseph, let me jump in there. Mama Miriam was elected out of sentiments.
Indeed, yes.
Ambassador Olaro Tunu came in there and was still antagonism within the party. Coming in, Jimmy, you still have antagonism with Jimmy, Honorable Jimmy Akena, going on there. Does UPC really have, like Honorable Babu said, an ideology of what it stands for for Ugandans?
No, we do, but I think let me conclude this part. We do. Mama Miriam was elected with a narrow sentiments and emotions at the time following the death of the president. Olaro Tunu was convincingly elected. It's Milton Obote who told me when I was head of the party in UK that whatever your leadership, whatever it is, you will always have people on the opposing side. Olaro was convincingly elected. Of course, people had views against. I stood against him, but he was elected our leader. Mr. Museveni does not have 100% support in the NRA, although I know sometimes the staff ballot papers, even if it were a number only. My point is, when Jimmy stood for the election of for the leadership, he wasn't elected. So Jimmy has never been elected. The Supreme Court ruled that Jimmy is not leader of the party. What has happened in UPC is the hands of NRA in UPC, like they did it in 1985, like they did in 1996, until today, the support that they give Jimmy and Betty to basically, and many other people, sort of to disorganize the political party. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying the challenges in established political parties has been actually you could argue, the push by NRM to disorganize it. But back to the ideological question, Captain Babu is quite right that our founding as Uganda National Congress was quite clearly on values and on the ideology. We are a social democratic political party and absolutely convictionist. By independence, it was very clear we were. And we delivered on the programs, ideological programs. And when I found myself in exile, I look around to the British Labour Party, I look to the Congress Party of India, I look to sister parties alike around the world, and they're completely consistent with the values of Uganda People's Congress. I don't know any other political party in Uganda outside UPC with a clarity of values as we are. Our problem, though, is that since the return to multipartyism and since the death of the president, and since Olaro Tunu, we haven't resolved our leadership. And let me tell you this and read my lips. In the very likely event that we resolve our party leadership, Uganda People's Congress, with the pressure groups and civil society organizations emerging to fight corruption, Uganda People's Congress values as a social democratic political party, whose values are it is to push for education, to push for health, push for public service, push for agriculture, push against corruption, push against chauvinism, will become the relevant political party. And I can't wait for these leaders of the civil society organizations to come to the political party of the future, which is Uganda People's Congress.
You might need to join PLD. Let me come to Honorable Mapenduzi. First and foremost, congratulations. Now you're a coordinator. But let's look at OPLU in their.
He said it twice. I'm sure you're going to say it that time.
Okay. And the Honorable Minister
Thank you, my senior.
Was clear enough to give us a bit of what the roadmap is. You have been part of FDC, which is now disgruntled, seeming to make a new formation in Katonga. You were independent. You recently signed an MOU. You're now with PLU. What is happening? Where are you?
Thank you.
Misunderstanding.
That's the drama you were talking about.
Use bad words again. They have a small misunderstanding.
What is the stand now, and what is the future of our country?
I'll start from another angle. Of course, you're quite provoking, which is good. But I'll tell you that whatever you see happening with the different political parties right now in this country tells you a lot about where the country has been, the challenges we have gone through, and the challenges we face today. And that should help us to carve out how we're going to move forward. What you see in UPC, what you see in DP, what you see in the FDC, and to some extent in the NRM, even in NUP, are signs and...
Is it PPP?
PPP, exactly.
Yeah, we have a few, and the farmers.
So what you see in all these political parties are signs and symptoms of a society that has been through a lot and is struggling to find a direction.
Mm.
And in the process, a lot of things happen. And for me, I do not want to lose hope. Yes, there are issues in FDC, there could be issues in NRM, there could be issues in DP and so on. But at the end of the day, we should be able, as a country, to accept that, look, a lot of things have not gone on right. And so there is need to deliberately begin to have these discussions. I heard how my senior colleague, Honorable Paul Omara, how he struggled to, he sounded extremely worried talking about PLU. Interestingly, he even does not. No,
that was somebody else.
No, I think
he's one of them.
I think Honorable Omara.
Let's listen to Honorable.
I think Honorable Omara sleeps for 7 hours. but just to say what I wanted to say, is that when you hear Honorable Mara talks about a new formation like PLU, you clearly see a tone of someone who has not understood what this pressure group is. And I'm not going to blame you. So I'll commit to having time with you to take you through what PLU is all about, so you get to appreciate. And you also said, the Honorable Minister has run to this, has left, and that's not correct. In this country, you are right to associate with people, with whom you share ideas, common ideas, and you believe there is something you have to achieve. And about PLU it's a group of people who believe that so much has happened in this country, but the country has a future. And so we need to talk. We need to think about tomorrow, but we also need to care about what is going on today. And so when you see somebody coming from NUP, coming from FDC, coming from NRM, it's a group of people who care, and they want to talk, and they want to find a way to move forward in a positive way, because it's not going to be all about lamentation.
So what is the conversation, Honorable Jara?
Can you
the challenge I have.
Can you please not interrupt?
Honorable Mara, let him come.
Can you please not
What's
interrupt?
the conversation you're having with all these intersections, or what I could call fusions? What is this conversation?
You see, Timothy, one thing I can assure you is that I will be reaching out to you as well. And yeah, because look, you are Uganda, and you care about this country, and that's why every Wednesday you sit here and talk about this country, and so it's not wrong to have a discussion with you.
So let me ask Honorable, and good enough, both you, Honorable Mara, and you are here. You stood at the beginning of your term with the Constitution and said you would defend it. The Honorable Minister is here. You were breaking the Constitution.
We are not breaking the Constitution.
Article 208 of the UPDF Act prohibits any member of the army to participate in partisan activities.
Let me tell you.
Let me continue. Just hold on.
Listen, and this is where I want to correct
Section
you.
17
Listen
says
here.
Subversive, a person who is subjected to military law and displays any following conduct: quest for cheap popularity, intrigue and double talk, formation of cliques in army commits, and also that is subversive and is committed to life in prison.
I'll ask you 3 questions. 1, is PLU a political party or a platform for Ugandans to talk about Uganda of today and tomorrow? It's not a political party.
But you're having partisan activities.
Listen here. Let me correct you, okay? Because you see, do not be so stuck to PLU is not a political party, and you heard from the Honorable Minister, it's a pressure group.
With political activity.
A group bringing people to talk about the affairs of this country. And if you're talking about Uganda, you will talk about lots of things, all right? And so you are not going to. So are you saying you are a journalist and you should not talk about what concerns? That's where we go wrong.
Within the context of the law.
So it is not a political party. It is it's a pressure group
doing political activities.
Well, political activities, economic activities, and all that. It's about this country. And you need to take that in good faith. Now, the other thing that I need to, and you need to calm down.
No, okay. Because
you need to calm down.
The question,
because
Honorable Jara.
Yeah. No.
Honorable Jara, I'm really calm. It's just that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, all of you, including Captain Francis Babu, have stood to defend the Constitution.
Exactly.
But when I look at the UPDF Act, it's being broken. You are choosing a serving military officer to be a chairman of a pressure group that is doing political activities.
Well,
you were pledging to fight corruption. You're pledging to reach out to all these things that NRM is shortcomings are seemingly like PLU is picking up on these. So really, aren't we beating the same horse? We're trying to judge with discipline.
PLU as a legal group, and I can authoritatively tell you this. PLU as a pressure group, a legally registered pressure group, is a group that brings like-minded people who care about this country, people who care about the future of this country, and want to talk about it. And it is not wrong for people, whether you're in the army, and it's not wrong to talk about the future of Uganda.
So let me ask a
It's not
straight
a crime.
question, Honorable
But
Jack.
you see, when you get directly into politics, okay, then that's a different story. But
Will
it doesn't stop you.
PLU present candidates come 2026?
But why are you talking about 2026? We are talking about it's not a
It's
political
tomorrow.
party. Listen, we are a pressure group. And that is why different people are. I came to parliament as an independent. The honorable minister is NRM. He has not abandoned his party. He
So
belongs to
the
NRM.
tweet put by General Mohozi March last year, where he said, come 2026, he'll be on the ballot.
PLU was formally launched on the 15th, and you mentioned it.
And he's the chairman.
So let's talk about PLU from
And
the,
he's
from
the chairman.
15th. Okay?
He's the chairman.
It becomes a legal entity launch on the 15th, and that is the direction we want to take. Now, let me talk about the other things that you allowed the rest of the members to talk about. Uganda went through a referendum on 28th of July 2005, and Ugandans decided that we should go multi-party, which was a perfect decision, because that allows different people to belong to different groups and participate in the politics of this country. What has happened is that, one, I think it would be unfair for us to begin to look at other countries and begin to think Uganda should be like other countries. I think we need to spend a lot more time to understand who we are and how we can do better as a country and build something that works. Maybe in a few years from now or a few decades, other countries would also begin referring to Uganda. But only if we spend a lot of energy in trying to, because it's not only about lamenting and saying, but how much effort are we putting at political party level? Look at the political parties we are talking about. The Democratic Party is one of the oldest political parties. The UPC is older than the NRM and many other parties. But how much are they doing as political parties in trying to build structures that work, in trying to build systems that work for those parties, in trying to make sure they are everywhere in every corner of this country? That is a question that needs to be answered. But of course, there are also challenges that we all understand. Because then you are going to say the UPC is not able to be in every part of the country because they do not have the resources they would need to do that. Okay? So Uganda, when you look at a country like Kenya and other countries, their government looks at political parties and the resources available. I think a few years back, that's when political parties started getting some money. I think, I do not know how much the UPC gets every financial year in terms of.
Depends on the members of parliament.
Depends on their strength in parliament, and there is a formula that has been developed. But you see, even so, that is not adequate. The political parties, because these political parties are not just things that belong to individuals. These are platforms that are likely to contribute in shaping the future of the country. So if we want to see political parties get a lot more effective as structures, they need to be treated fairly, deliberately supported, so they can, a ground can be created for every political party. But we also have to acknowledge that the environment right now is not favorable to some political parties.
Okay.
All right? Because if political party A, the NRM, their candidate is able to run everywhere, and then the other parties are saying we are not able to hold rallies and all that. This is the kind of discussion we should be having as a country. We should allow every political party participate freely. We should create a level ground, and that way we can begin to see the things we are talking about. So it's a long journey that we have to take as a country, but we need to learn from the past and make sure we put the commitment required. So we will continue talking about this group, Chagulani is this, or Besije is that, but you see, a lot of the things that we are seeing right now has a very strong tie to the kind of history we have had as a country. Even how those political groups, political parties have been created. When you look at the history of the FDC, how the FDC, majority of those who started the FDC majority of them moved from the NRM, and others moved from the other political parties. When it started as Reform Agenda and later on PAFO, and then came into, a lot of things have happened. So we need to put a lot more energy as a country in making sure that even at political party level, every political party invest in building systems that work, building structures, and that will help solve the problem. And that's part of the discussion we are having as PLU. That look, listen,
Very interesting. Honorable
Yeah.
Mara, and then I'll give Captain Francis Babu, and then we call it an hour for now.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. I was just bringing in, I am not worried or against PLU. No, let me bring the dichotomy. I'm saying that PLU as an institution, I say this, I consider it to be an offshoot of NRM. And it was supposed to be a group of young people that was going to create pressure on the NOP, for example. Now, what surprised me is to find the leaders of NRM going there to PLU and turn around and start throwing dirt at NRM. You can't do that. If this is a friendly force, you can't sit there and criticize the party which is the vanguard of liberation and of development in Uganda for the last 38 years. You can't turn around as an offshoot and criticize it. That's where I have the problem. So it worries me because the institutional building, which should be keeping NRM as a political party safe and organized, is breaking under our watch. That's what I'm simply saying. So I'm saying that the political party as we know it then lacks very strong pillars that can anchor it solid on the ground. Because how can PLU, which is just formed yesterday, sweep NRM off the ground? That's something to ponder. You must think about it. Then the second one, which is in relations to the question that you've asked about offending the Constitution. Somebody actually said that the law, as we know it, must be blind to individuals, to all of us. The law must be blind. It must not see Muzee Babu to say, this is Muzee. Let me not touch it. It can discriminate and moves. This one can. A moment the law begins to discriminate us, throw it away. It's no longer relevant. So the law must not see anybody. And that's why I said that there's a section of this country that looks at General Moses' involvement in this political activity as offending the Constitution and the UPDF Act. And also know that the UPDF that we have is an elite force. The one of Amin were uneducated. Even the one of Honorable Stien of the UPC of 1980. Just a minute. Where people who are basically low levels that came through were not maybe the commanding officers, but the foot soldiers were little uneducated. This army here, the army we have, UPDF, we are having senior 4 graduates. And they understand the discipline, they understand the Constitution and the UPDF Act. They are alert to the Constitution and the law. So a moment you do something, you can actually say they are not seeing it, but they are seeing it. So in whatever we do, and this is why we leaders, we must be held accountable. As leaders, we must make sure that we uphold the Constitution. It can be good for me now, but it might not be good for me tomorrow. So we must actually stand firm and say, like I said it openly, that General Muhezi has made it very clear that he wants to run for presidency. The best the army can do and the commander-in-chief can do is to relinquish him from the army so that he can actually come out and participate. And it's rightfully so. He has the right to stand for presidency. So don't vulgarize the law for political expediency.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to ask that we take a break. I'll come back to the minister and Captain Francis Babu. We're going to come back and we'll be discussing this institution of political parties versus individual merits there. But also we'll come back to discuss, how do we sort this problem? How do we identify our identity as a country moving forward, especially for posterity? This and more after this break.
Fred!
Osmosis.
Freddy! Fred Dollar! My boss, CEO Inojo, the general of generals, the conqueror of conquerors, the first and the final, the sky above the skies, the promised land, the terms and the conditions, the international king crocodile, the source of the
Osmosis.
Nile.
I don't have money today.
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success, the back commander, not the back teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
The government of Uganda and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics is calling upon all stakeholders such as the chief administrative officers, city mayors, resident city commissioners, city clerks, city and division councillors, wards and LC chairpersons, as well as the residents and business communities to cooperate with the UBOS field teams as we embark on advanced preparations to conduct the National Population and Housing Census on the 10th of May 2024. The census will be a 10-day exercise to obtain statistical data and information that will be used for planning and policy formulation, including information on 1. How many we are, 2. Where we are, 3. How we are living, 4. What we own, and 5. Where we access services from. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics has now started listing of households and mapping in the 11 cities of Arua, Fopoto, Gulu, Hoima, Jinja, Mira, Mbale, Masaka, Mbarara, Soroti, and in the Greater Kampala comprising of Kampala, Wakiso, and Mukono districts. For more information, please call 0755 342 128 or 0773 342 128. This message is brought to you by the Executive Director and Census Commissioner, Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Census 2024. It matters to be counted.
Yati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our meat or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko pamoja?
Ebiseera by'okuzaayo abaana mu masomero tebiteekwa kukaluubiriza n'akatono. Eno kusimba ennyiriri empanvu kano kalipagano ka bidduka. Simanyi kuzunga na banka siripisi. Kati osobola okusasula school fees z'omwana wo ate n'okola n'ebirala ntoko ku ssimu ye ey'omungalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyigawunyizi *165*8 ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited eruŋŋamizibwa banka enkulu ya Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break. Even behind the scenes, the conversation still continues. My name is Timothy Nyangweso, and thank you for joining us in this last leg of Behind the Headlines. I'm joined by Honorable Ojara Mapenduzi, Mr. Joseph Ocheno, Honorable Omara Paul, the veteran himself, Honorable Captain Francis Babu, and the Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga. Let me get to some of your feedback before we get into this last leg of our conversation to find solutions to what our country needs. I love what I am listening to, especially on this program. Thank you very much, Captain Francis Babu, for always being outright as a person. Okay? Leaders in this country are more so political leaders under the disguise of political parties, are misleading the country because of their selfishness. They are simply looking for survival and where to lean or lean on instead of giving the country direction to go. They all seem confused. If the leaders are confused, do not know what they stand for or what the common man at the grassroots. For God and my stomach, Chakala here. Okay, thank you very much, Chakala. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you so much for the debate. I strongly agree with Captain Babu. All these NRM people are just mediocres, playing around Ugandans' brains. They are playing drama for their own individual good. They need to be given a holiday of 6 months. Captain Babu, someone agrees with you. This is good evening, Timothy. I'm Draga from Bara. I would like to thank Captain Babu for the wise and mature view. May God give him another more years so that he can educate Ugandans. Thank you for the program. Okay, thank you too. This is quite lengthy. Please do not call this line. Good evening, panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you, Timothy. In Uganda's political parties, they're based on individual merit than ideological matters, more than those that are concerning the population. Therefore, leaders end up working to appease influencers in the party than look at the issues raised by the citizens. At the end of it all, we do not need political parties. What we need is service delivery, period. Opio Michael, a teacher in Buyikwe. Okay. Lastly but not least, good evening, Timothy. The panel is fantastic. The political parties have been a briefcase for political parties have become briefcases for political individuals. You only hear about them in elections and what they need. The common man is preoccupied with finding the next meal. Okay. Lastly, good evening, my brother Timothy. Thank you for the fantastic panel. The panel, sorry, this is Jack Mutebi in Stuttgart, watching us from Germany. Thank you for the panel. However, Honorable Mara should remember that NRM is not dying. It's only rebranding itself. PLU is replacing Uganda Patriotic Movement, which Museveni himself had formed. And since he said that Muhoozi is the one who avenges, you are yet to see the other interesting things coming up. So in essence, it's the old dream with an old vision, a new wine schemes rekindled. Thank you very much. Okay, a lot of messages coming through. I will get to some of them at the tail end there. Honorable Minister, yes. When you look at the future of this country, are you confident? Especially the statistic that was given by Honorable Mara, 75% of the young people, about 50% of those are dependents. Is this country their future, especially with political parties like Captain Babu said, the crisscrossing started in 1966. It seems like it's happening now. Do we have confidence in our country and its structures?
When I look at this country, I'm very optimistic. I'm an optimistic man, and I'm very, very confident. And he sleeps. But I sleep, and I'm asking my brother Honorable Mara to start sleeping because this country is really in good hands. But let me first of all clarify one thing. Honorable Mara, we haven't walked from NRM to another party, and we have clarified. Myself as coordinator and my brother Mapinduzi. For us, we are a pressure group, and we
but you criticize corruption in NRM.
No. Obviously, when even the president himself has talked about corruption, has condemned corruption. So if someone talks about corruption, he's not criticizing or what, he's mentioning some evil which is already in our system. Even you yourself, Honorable Mara, you have come here, I've been with you, and you criticize government over corruption. So that one, that one is not new.
Actually, but that's partly why I call him the alternative.
Exactly. and then, Timothy, one other thing we should really get clearly. Because you are talking about a journal participating in political activities. And one of them you have mentioned that is fighting corruption is a political what? Activity. Then probably we should first arrest the Brigadier Isok, who is heading the anti-corruption unit. So the army can talk about issues which you may think are political. But this Patriotic League of Uganda is non-partisan, and we are going to talk about issues which affect our country. And not that we can't talk about them in NRM, we can also talk about them in NRM. FDC is also talking about them in FDC. But now, this is a group of like-thinking people which should talk. And then the issue of the general saying, look, I'm coming in 2026. First of all, the general has the right to stand as a president. He is a general, serving military officer, and a seasoned general. He's a Ugandan. He has a senior certificate, and he's above 18. But for him to say, I have a dream of coming 2026, it doesn't mean he has now declared the campaigns. No. I know if time comes and he would like to come, he will resign and start the campaign, because our constitution is very clear. I think you resign, is it 3 months before nomination of primaries? So that one, if it is there, it will come. But for us who are with him, he hasn't told us that now I have started what? Campaign. He's telling us, please, let us sit down, talk about what is affecting our country. And you should also know that he has been in this revolution from birth. So as a revolutionarist, he cannot also wait and see some things going wrong, and he can talk about them. And he has brought together all right-thinking people to talk about this. And when I come now to, do we have a future? Yes.
Honorable Minister, should we be discussing transition or succession?
A transition, obviously. And you know, part of transition will be succession. Because you may not have a transition without what? Succession. Yes. So someone will succeed another. But one thing you should know, I think some people are looking at Geno as the first son. They are not looking at him as a Ugandan. Succession can be part of what? Transition. So for you, when you think about transition, you're looking at Omara, probably, because he's not a member of the first family. The transition can be a member of the first family because they all have the right. Look here, why are you bothered about the Geno? When the speaker died recently, his son succeeded him. Right now, Honorable Cecilia Gwal, the late, the daughter is in the race. And we can give so many examples. So me, that one is not a big issue. But the big issue is to strengthen our democracy. To strengthen our democracy, to have free and fair elections, to ensure all parties compete at a level playing ground, and to ensure all candidates, presidential candidates, compete at a level playing ground. But we shouldn't look at who is coming, is the son of who, not at all. Even you, Nyangweso or Timothy, you can stand in 2026. Nobody will stop you from contesting, so long as you have the muscle to do that. And me, I can see a bright future. Because now that the young people have picked interest in discussing what is taking place in their country, that's where the future is. And therefore, Patriotic League of Uganda is unstoppable. But as leaders of Patriotic League of Uganda, we are also aware that we must manage expectations of the people. We should also manage emotions of the people. We should also try to manage intentions of some people. And just as you have said, just as Honorable Mara said, there might be some people who have opportunistic what? Intentions. That's why now we have formed a strong leadership to manage all that. Timothy their leaders because they are problems. Otherwise, if this country didn't have problems, we wouldn't even have a president. Everybody would be free because there are no problems. So even we as PLU, we can see that there are a few issues, and therefore as leaders we have to be strong and manage, and also bring out the message clearly. Because our message or objectives are well documented. But you see that someone can even come on TV and talk about PLU and probably talk things which may not be rhyming with the objectives. All those are things which we must manage. And we are going to do that. And all Ugandans should know we are ready to welcome everyone. UPC, DP, NRM. And we have young people with energy. This energy, we should manage it and turn it into positive what? Energy. So because if we don't, it can become negative energy.
I'll come to Honorable Mapenduzi here to ask about the corruption. But let me come to you, Captain Francis Babu. When you see the young generation in this country, and we're trying to build a foundation of an identity of a country, are we on the right course to find ourselves as a country, especially 10, 20, 50 years when you hear all these deliberations that are here?
What I'm seeing here is
and how do we find ourselves?
Yeah, this is juvenile debate. We are talking about a nation, and we are not in primary or secondary school to start debating, to try and justify certain things. We are talking about a nation and a system of governance. How do we get those systems to work? When President Nyerere came here, when he retired, he actually visited Uganda, came to the conference center, and he said at independence they only had 8 graduates in 1961. Immediately it dawned on him, he didn't have enough people to run the country. Therefore, he realized, but the country, the people he was talking about, were not at graduate level. They were ordinary people. And therefore, he decided to have a vice president who was like the ordinary people. His vice president, who he had for many, many years, was a teacher, His Excellency Rashid Kawao. And he mobilized the people. Then he realized there was something even bigger than that. There were 102 tribes. He had to bring something that brought them together. So he came up with something called Ujamaa and Undugu, something that would cement them together. Then he came with the last one, which was the cement, the language. Tanzania was not speaking Swahili throughout. Only the coastal area and the Dodoma place all the way to Kigoma. Some of the other parts of Tanzania were not speaking Swahili. But now the whole of Tanzania speaks Swahili. What he did to try and bring everybody, to justify everybody on board, was defined. Actually, it is defined that when you make all people equal, you are a socialist. That's what they named him. That is building a nation. How do we build our country now? Let's not justify this person, that person. No. How do we build Uganda? With all these problems we've had, with all the things that are going on, what do we need to build this country? So 1, it is united. 2, the diversity we have is given equal opportunity. And lastly, that we can give the service to the people of this country. How do we do it? And I think instead of justifying this guy is good, that guy is good, that one is in uniform, that one doesn't have a uniform, that one is there. No. How do we change this country? Looking at all the things that we have gone through, all the history, let us not paint one person is bad, another person is good. No. As Ugandans, 48 million, I'm using the approximate number. We don't have the actual number. You're saying that we're 48 million. Half of them are young. The other ones are a little bit older and young. So we are talking about 20 million people, a little bit, we can say there may be adults. What do? We have problems. Now, people are saying the system is bad, that system. Let's look at the whole world. Apart from the Western countries that seem to have this democracy that we all sing here, how about the other countries? How about China? How about Russia? How about countries that don't follow that Western democracy, the so-called liberal democracy? How come they're there? What can we do to change our country? Because I'm not saying liberal democracy is bad, but we have tried it here from 1962 up to now. We seem to be falling into ditches every time. How do we get out of this mess? My view is this. I'm sorry, this thing they call the movement, this thing, I don't agree with that. What really happened? Let's forget about President Museveni and the resistance movement. But when that system came, what did it do? You went to the village, you had a parish, you had a sub-county, and you went to the village to give you a leader. And they chose a leader. You went to the parish, they chose him again. You went to the sub-county, they chose them again. By the time you reached the district, we had a certain crop of leaders. It is the people who decided, not the party. The question is, how can we make the people of Uganda participate in making this country a better place? What system can we use? I'm not saying this system, the one I've just talked about, is the best. Is there a better one? Can we sit down? You're all very highly educated people. Can we come out with a system where Ugandans are participating in getting leaders without any hullabaloo? The Americans, when they first started, to choose a president, you had to be a landowner. It is an electoral college of landowners that chose the president of America at that time. Their view was, it's only people with property that can choose a good leader. That was their view. What is our view now? How should we choose our leader? Is this system we have working? Now, let us not justify this guy is good, this guy is better. No. I'm growing old. I better support this one because very soon I'll be gone. You're gone. Goodbye. The idea is very simple. How about our children? What kind of country are we leaving for them? How about our grandchildren? How about posterity? So my view is this. If we are having problem with all this system, we don't want pressure groups, we don't want this, let the leaders of this country call a meeting. Let us sit down. Let's look at all systems. Let's get a system that can help this country to get out of this problem. And I'm not going to accuse anybody. Anybody is free to behave the way they want, but within the law.
Captain Francis Babu, let me put a question to you. President Nyerere united the country.
Yes.
Language, and
Yes.
ensured that there was umoja.
Yes.
What would unite Uganda?
About the same thing, but slightly different maybe.
And how would it be approached? 56 tribes in this country.
You see these people who are sitting here.
Tribes.
You see all the people who are sitting here. If you gave them a prescription how this country can be a good country, they will all join you. It needs one man. Magufuli just the other day, for 5 years, changed the whole of Tanzania. One man. You don't need a lot of people. You need a sincere. I like to go back to that thing. You know, I love it. There's a man called Lee Kuan Yew. He came out with one
Singapore.
word. He came out with the MPH. Meritocracy, merit. The other second word, pragmatism. The last word, honesty. What is lacking in this country is honesty. We can change this country, regardless of the system, by the way. It's not the system that's the problem. It's the people that are a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mara, you have heard from our senior there, Captain Francis Babu, really emphatic and also very emphasizing where we need to be going as a country. the fraction that we have done in this country, especially with political parties, when you look at FDC and you look at the venom today, when you look at NUP and the fraction that is in Masaka, and you look at this, when you look at UPC and you hear how Mr. Ocheno speaks there, and he says we need to find that. What is that thing that can bring East, West, South, North, Uganda, and say let's follow and believe in this one thing and have a future of a country?
Thank you, Timothy. I think Honorable Babu nailed it with the Singaporean matrix. But for us, I think the unity of our country is actually lacking. Because if you see all the factions which is happening, whether it's in DP or FDC, there is a lot of tribal undertones, because this leader comes from there, that's why you're opposing us. So it's us against them. So we have not had time to have a conversation about what really binds us together as a country in terms of our unity, having unity in diversity, because we are still very, we do things with a lot of ethnic lenses, and somebody needs to come and rally people like the way Nyerere did. By the way, I gave an example last time here that when I was in Tanzania as the MD for Stanbic, a Luo man came from here to assist me in IT integration. And we were excited and we were speaking Luo, talking Lango. And one of my managers walked to me and said, Chief, that thing is not allowed here. I said, what is it? You're speaking your local language here. Here you either speak English or Kiswahili as official language in this environment. It was in the DNA of every citizen. So what is it that we can do to dramatically transform our mindsets to remove away the tribal things and we begin to look at ourselves as Ugandans? I don't know how it can be done, but I think we need to deal with that. Timothy, one other thing I wanted to look at is, if you look at all these political parties, the constitution of Uganda, by the way, says that the constitution of these political parties, the way they conduct themselves, must be in line, in tandem with the constitution of Uganda and exercise democratic practices. But if you look at these parties, the question I asked, for example, if I'm a member of the NRM, what is it required for me to access and be as a candidate, a presidential candidate within the NRM party? Is there room for me to do that? Pick UPC. Is there room for any one of us to exercise our democratic rights and go through the process without being discriminated and stand as a candidate? Do the same thing for NOP, for all these political parties. So as I said, is that in terms of the law, we have this constitution of these political parties there, but in practice, people are gagged. People are gagged. And so people are gagged to insulate other people, some people from, as if it is a right for them to achieve political power. So the democratic rights as it's exercised in the Constitution of Uganda must be practiced within the political parties and political organizations that we have. And that's why when I was giving my example to Honorable Mapenduzi, if for PLU to go and start their pressure group, that is okay, because they can actually transform, by the way, to become a political party, which is in own right can run and provide a candidate. Now, within NRM, as a political organization, at point T, when Muzee Kaguta now finally says, I'm not here, will there be room for anybody to come and access that power and stand as a presidential candidate? And these are the open conversation that we must have as a country. If we cannot have, and by the way, I see people are very lethargic, very timid. People are, unfortunately, this generation, our generation that we have, will not help us. I think the younger people will do something better than our generation. Because our generation have become opportunistic. For us, we see the grocery is there, me, I can't walk bypass it. And then secondly, I should never say anything that will be misconstrued to be not in line, in tandem. But as Honorable Babu said, you know, for me, I'm now in my 50s. You know, the year ahead of me is much shorter than behind me, the one I've lived. I have children. I will have grandchildren. I must, as a leader, leave this country much better, more stable, more stable than I found it. And I must speak truth. If I don't speak truth, then who will say it? I should not do things opportunistically so that to be seen. No, I need to speak because you know what Nelson Mandela said? He said, somebody who speaks to you when you're with him, when he goes to the other side and speaks something else, is not fit to be a leader. So we must speak the truth, whether we are in silence or where we're in the open. So as leaders, we need to take responsibility and to say that this country belongs to all of us. The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda is for all of us. I was actually humbled. You saw when the president was handing over the UPDF establishment 2021. What did he do? He was reading the Constitution, from the Constitution, the powers that is given to him, the delegated authority is referring to the Constitution. So when it comes to the matters of the Constitution, it is like our Bible. We must never, because of a duplicity, undermine it today.
And Honorable Mara,
Yes.
staying with you before I get to Mr. Ocheno.
Yeah.
Parties have an act, have a law that governs them.
Yes.
When we look at pressure groups, there's no administration, there's no governance, they are free range. How do we manage, especially their activities, so that they're not dwindling to divert Ugandans in different areas? Because that's the biggest question here.
So that is why I said pressure groups. Let's not leave pressure groups for people who are not in authority. Let's leave pressure groups to most of the pressure groups are normally young people. If you look at the DPs, they used to have them, they were called what?
Young Democrats, Uganda, UID.
UID, these are young people from the university. They were coming challenging the leaders in DP. And they're saying this is where we need to move. The Mabikas, the Mangashivumbis of today, they were young people from the university. And they were the young people who are running the thing. That's why I said, for me, I was put aback by seeing the elders of NRM running into a pressure group. And yet the president has given them a mandate to run, to execute, to deliver on the people of Uganda. And they have resources, they have a budget. They are given offices, they have vehicles. How can you run to a pressure group which has no resources? Really. So the pressure group, they should leave it to a section of the young people who are unhappy with us, we the leaders, are saying, now you are corrupt, you are not leading us well. Let them put that pressure on us so that for us we said, hey, elders, we are in charge, but look at what the young people are saying. We must listen to them. But for me, if I run away from my responsibility as an elder, and I run at young people, then I start looking back and saying, those were, hey, we are pointing at ourselves. That is abdication of responsibility. That is, I don't know what, it's a breakdown of systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is no Ugandan, as long as you're Ugandan above 18, you are free to stand for election through a party of your choice.
Yes.
I want to make this point very clear. Another point, there is no law which stops a son of a leader to stand or a daughter for any elections, as long as you follow the law.
Okay.
So I want that, because I want to give an example. The Prime Minister of Canada, the father was a Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi, the father was the Prime Minister. Many others I can quote. So I don't want Ugandans to put that emphasis on that issue. Just follow the law. Nobody will stop you from standing.
Okay. Charles, Joseph, coming to you, when you look at the cropping up of pressure groups, you look at UID from DP, you look at People Power from NUP, you look, when is UPC getting a pressure group, and where are pressure groups cropping up?
We don't need a pressure group. We are the established political party of today. We're the political party that founded competitive politics, which makes us agree occasionally with Otafiri that politics should be about a competition of ideas, to the extent, therefore, that I don't want to be left out quoting Nelson Mandela, who also said, and maybe this is very important for Ugandans, where seemingly we are heading towards the next few years, that people are trained and taught to hate, so we can be taught to love. So I hope that when we leave these desks and very comfortable chairs this evening, we're able to examine our conscience and review and take what Milton Obote said, that very famously, that what concerns all must be discussed by all. And so therefore, this conversation we're having is not about pressure groups. It's basically about transition politics in NRA. And it's about how we move from Museveni to the next Uganda with certainty. And that's why I've always called for an open conversation. That maybe part of what the conversation we should be having is one about national dialogue, where we're able to sit as political organizations, community organizations, post-religious organizations, to have a very genuine conversation about the future of this country. And why? Because after an experiment,
how would we navigate that conversation?
Indeed, we have to.
Where would we start it from? Where would we get it to?
It requires leadership, and I was going to talk about it. It requires leadership, and unfortunately, Mr. Museveni has failed to provide that leadership. It's Mr. Museveni and DP that broke the back of political competition in this country in 1985 to 86. And since then, a monolithic attempt of one-party system that has now seemingly failed. You can see that extraordinarily within NRM. There is this attempt, how do we get out of this thing? Is it Muhoozi? Is it who? And we are now talking a pressure group. It's not a pressure group. In any case, if it's a pressure group, who's funding it? I got rather concerned as a taxpayer that all these district leaders came to Kampala. On whose exchequer, and who did they leave behind? Did they get paid leave? Was it paid leave? Was it annual leave? What exactly were they going to attend? Who gave them authority? The minister is here. Minister, is it Minister for Local Government? Did you give authority
ICT
for this?
And national.
So those are the issues. Well, I'm just asking. So those are the important. No, the issue is leadership. Political leadership is what is required in this country. Unfortunately, Mr. Museveni at the moment is generally very, very tired. And for that reason, therefore, it calls upon all political leaders from across the political divide to begin to have a major urgent conversation. Unfortunately for political parties, it's again back really to the NRM to look into itself, to possibly give some space for existing political parties, including like one like mine, which is UPC. In UPC's case, the members have spoken, but somehow, their interests, some of which are actually linked to the state. That's why we don't have a leader.
Is it the problem that UPC is lacking an idea that people can follow? Captain Francis Bobo, someone intimated on an idea that will rally Ugandans behind.
No,
is that the challenge?
By the way, it's the UPC government of the 60s that brought this country together. It's the UPC government of the 80s, even when NRA was fighting the war, that brought this country together.
We appreciate that. We're asking now.
Can I give you an important point? What brings countries together actually is not a mythical you come together. It's the common things that people feel that we're in a country in which there's law and order. We're in a country in which when I go to a public office, I'm going to speak the language that Comrade Paul Omar has talked about, that I will go to a particular office and it will not be only the Badola being spoken. I'll go to a police officer and it will not be based on how much money I take. And I'll go to make an application for a job, and it's not because whose son or where do I come from and what language I come from. And when scholarships come, like what I saw in the 80s as a young student, it will not be people who come from particular communities. UPC provided that leadership. Do you know what? The two Obote administrations, you could not accuse us at any particular time, Obote 1 and Obote 2, continuously the most powerful leaders in the most in country. Captain Babu and I have an experience about this, elsewhere, and I really don't want to. I really don't want to bring it here. So the most influential leaders were not from the north, nowhere they necessarily from the east continuously. Just some food for thought for that. So this can be done, but at the moment it's not about a review of that, but where we go to the future. I think this is the time for an open conversation, and that's why actually one of the things that makes me delighted is when we come to your green room, before this program, all of us able to sit, laugh, and chat and have a common conversation. But where do we get the courage, as a panel like this, to pull ourselves towards a common agenda? Our lacking thing is politics and leadership.
Has been trying to bring conversation. And
is that possible?
I don't know the conversation of Akena that.
And I think
Babu
he's been trying to reach the leadership so they can have conversation. And this is same with the Mao. He's reaching leadership to have conversation.
That is officially from NRA anyway, but there you go.
No.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Mapenduzi, one of the things that, and Honorable Mara said it, for him to be an MD in Tanzania and someone calls him out, not a leader, but someone in the bank, to say, this is not how it's done. In this country, we're torn by tribe, we're torn by religion. It seems like our past ghosts have not yet been healed. How do we get to a country we desire? How do we get to Uganda and not Honorable Mapenduzi from Acholi, Timothy from the east, Honorable Babu from the central? And we take those tags off and we call ourselves Ugandans, because at the end of the day, like someone sent a message in, all they're looking for is the next meal. Can political parties deliver that?
My brother, just as I started, a lot of things are happening in this country, and we need to acknowledge that our leaders fail us. The tribal sentiments that you constantly hear, how people are treated based on where they come from. And even when you are trying to apply for a job, sometimes somebody, and by the way, it has gone terribly wrong. It has gone even at local government level. You go to a particular sub-region where people speak the same language. It has now gone down to a level of which sub-county do you come from,
which clan,
or which clan, or which district. That is where we have gone as a country. And that's a problem for all of us. We are not just going to blame one individual. We need to take responsibility as Ugandans. Because, and I said the leaders fail us. I will give you the example of northern Uganda. All right? There was a time when we were referred to as Anyanya, okay? Calling us different kind of names. These are things that happen. But you see, we need to look beyond and recognize that, yes, terrible things have happened. We don't need to get stuck there. We need to forge a way forward. So the discussion has to start. And you see, the kind of platforms we have today, like we have repeatedly referred to the PLU, and we're saying, look, it's not going to be about religion. It's not going to be about ethnic groups. It's going to be about Ugandans who can come together and begin to talk. Talking about the bad things and the good things and beginning to shape a future. So the whole thing starts with acknowledging that terrible things happen. Acknowledging that, right now, it's about tribes, it's about this, and it's not taking us anywhere. The moment we are able to acknowledge and the moment we are able to start talking about it, then we will begin to realize the importance of looking at the bigger picture. And I think that is the direction some of us are beginning to take. In some places you may think a particular part of the country is having milk and honey flowing. And when you visit there, the story is different. There are people who are in abject poverty, like in other parts. So it's about helping Ugandans begin to realize that, look, if there is a problem, it's not about a particular tribe. It's about Uganda, and we need to correct it. So that's the kind of conversation we are beginning to have. And I really want to, again, Honorable Mara said something, and I need to correct that impression. Honorable Mara said, a pressure group should be for young people, so that that's a wrong concept. You need to understand it. Because
no, actually, I do not agree with him too.
I saw that in your face.
I saw that in your face.
No, but if you allow me, Mapinduzi, let me say something. Ugandans and all Africans are telling us lies. They are just people who are selfish in some cases, and they hide behind tribalism. They hide behind religion. They hide behind young or old. But they are not, they actually know that it's wrong. It's not that they're actually tribalistic. For me, because I don't want Otieno to get the job, I pretend. But I know what I'm doing is not right.
Thank you for that. And
it's nepotism, pure nepotism.
But the foundation of our political parties, give an example of DP or UPC, connotations of religion were there. Isn't there
at the beginning?
Yes, at the beginning.
Not UPC. And UPC never was.
And that's where isn't that the problem of our foundation of our problems of our parties?
That's precisely what I'm talking about. Yes,
it's just a nickname.
You know how we started could have been wrong, but are we going to get stuck there? We need to have that sober discussion and say, look.
And the other one is Dinia Papa.
Yes. So
those are the names.
And that's why I said we need to acknowledge that things did not go on well, and we need to start to correct. And every political party has a duty to correct that. I feel saddened when I hear, even right now, the kind of tone, like I've been hearing in FDC, right? The kind of tone now. The Katonga group is being, attached to a particular. And then there is also another group saying, you are trying to alienate us, the Eastern Bloc. The moment we begin to build political parties based on that, we tear the country.
By the way, that's how UNC broke.
So, and then I do not want to miss something. The Honorable Minister talked about some of the things we are discussing as a platform. He talked about corruption. And you see, we are not just talking about corruption in political parties or in the NRM. We are talking about corruption in the country. Let me give you an example. Recently, there was a report published by the Auditor General. There was an exercise, a verification exercise, to determine the number of civil servants we have in this. I'm not sure whether you saw the report.
I saw it.
10,000 ghost workers in this country.
Only
10,000 ghost workers in the civil service. All right? These are people who could have retired, people who could have died, people who could have absconded, but they are getting salary. There are people paying them, and the country is losing 53 billion.
And Honorable Mapinduzi, even as I'm going to give a last word, we agree with corruption being the problem, but it's not the bottom line. You're sorting a symptom and not the disease. Yes. Malaria is the disease. Yes. Because if we say the problem is religion and tribe, and all these other systemic problems.
We are not just listen, my brother. We are not just dealing with the symptoms. We are using the symptoms to help us trace where the problem is coming from. Okay? Yes, you may be concerned about the symptom, but you will be able to get to understand deeper how you can address that. So it's broad.
Okay. Gentlemen, I have a few minutes, so I'll start with the Honorable Mapinduzi going ground on your last words there, but also on the trend of what has been happening on our electoral cycles and how political parties seem to be charged 2 years before we get into the electoral cycle. I'll start with you, and then Joseph, I will push on to Honorable Mara, Captain Francis Babu, and lastly, the Minister.
Well, it's expected. What is happening right now is that every political party is beginning to, one, scale up their level of, attraction and recruitment of new members. There are also people from within, there are lots of internal struggles where people want to position themselves, and you're likely to see a lot more of that. It's even going to be worse at the time when political parties are approaching primaries and all that. These are things that are going to happen. But you see, the political parties have to do a lot more in building their internal systems and structures. If you're a political party like the UPC currently appears to be a little stronger in Lao. You need to spread your wings and be strong everywhere. NUP appears to be a little stronger in the central. You need to. But the moment we are very comfortable and we think, so I don't see many political parties taking that direction. Many political parties are comfortable with where they are, and so they are busy fighting internally, struggling for the little instead of building a broader base so they can take power. I don't understand that. So the bottom line is that as we approach 2025, going to 2026, political parties need to do a lot more in recruiting new members, in building systems that work, and also making sure that when they reach a point of identifying candidates for their parties, they don't tear the parties the more. Otherwise, you can concentrate right now to attract, but if you don't have clear mechanisms of managing internal pressure, then you will, as a party, not go anywhere. And then the next day, we will begin to say the NRM rigged. And the other thing is, if the NRM is able to have from LC1 in every village, they have candidates, they have councillors in every parish, they have councillors in every sub-county, district chairpersons, and again, we will be flogging the doors. So if you want to compete, build your structures, reach every part of the country, let your political party carry a national image, not a tribal, not a regional, not a religious kind of perspective. That way, we will begin to talk about Uganda as a country and talking about multipartism.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ocheno.
I really hope, as I said, that Ugandans use this space and this time to critically review what is going on internally, so that we're able to look back to where we're coming from and to very consciously take very seriously stock of the failures of NRM, and to simply say that going forward, we should not really go back through the shambles of the last 40 years. Grant is absolutely important that the existing political parties should also look critically inwardly. I know we hold NRM to account in many ways, but should look actually inwardly, particularly when it comes to the question of leadership and question of internal democracy. From UPC's perspective, I hope that our only major problem at the moment is the question of leadership, and that at the moment is being held back relatively by possibly the backlog in the judiciary. In the event that the judiciary resolves this matter one way or another very soon, I'm sure we'll be able to have a leader, and in the likely event that that's myself, I'll be seeking to reunite the party, bring it together, reconstitute. We're already working very hard in mobilizing particularly young people, and then make sure that we take the conversation not only across the country as rebuilding structures, but engaging in the battle of ideas with all our friends and colleagues in the other political parties. And absolutely right, Martin, that over the next 12 years, we should be having slightly much more conversation to critically look at what NUP represents, what NRM represents with the shambles of 40 years, what FDC represents, what DP represents. And for me, as a leader of UPC, I can't wait for that conversation to take place, because I know confidently, given the space, and to do it in such a manner that it's not about how pressure groups have privileges of space, that UPC will have an very interesting shot going forward post Museveni's retirement, which must be soon. I must say that there is a by-election pending in Dokolo. It looks rather nice. I will be very excited to say that almost certainly it's a seat that we must take. But I think, like Martin says, we need to be looking very much outwardly beyond Lango. Thankfully, we've never been a one regional political party. We're a political party that only struggled in Uganda for a very specific reason. But across the country, we are the political party of the future.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mara.
Thank you, Timothy. As you know, I was elected on an independent ticket, and I've been working very closely with NRM. As I mentioned, while I'm looking at the program that the President Museveni has in place for transforming Uganda, I'm seeing
individual merit. Copy.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at my brother, the minister. They are again running away from NRM to a pressure group. So I'm just wondering where I am.
Yes.
I want to encourage NRM leaders who are outside there, is that let's work with the President Museveni to deliver on the promise, and then we'll look at 2026. The other thing also is that, Timothy, we need to rally around a well-crafted ideology and programs and policies. If we run after individuals as leaders, we are going to fail.
Yeah.
And for example, if tomorrow President Museveni says the next leader for NRM is going to be Honorable Babu, I can, as night follows the day, these leaders that have run to PLU will run again looking for where Honorable Babu is, without looking at what is it that is there. So let's concentrate more on ideology. Like this country, we need to look at what are the economic policies that will take us forward. What is our foreign policy agenda? We have a regional stability. What is it? What is the matters on strategic security within the region? Let's discuss those policies. And the moment you people are ready with the policy and ideology issues, please invite me. I will come. But don't come and say, follow me, we are following people. That is very, very important. Then the last one, I think leaders, as I've already mentioned, need to make right decisions.
Yes.
And because the young people are looking up to us. And let us not run for positions. Because I have talked to my colleagues in parliament. They're saying, you know what, the power is moving, we need to run there. And what I see as a driving thing is groceries, number one. Two is positions. So let's make a right call, make the right decisions, not for us, but for the future of our country, for our children, for our grandchildren. That's the better decision we should make as leaders, just not running around.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Captain Babu.
Yes, thank you very, very much. In Tanzania, some years ago, when President Nyerere was still alive, when he had left, and President Mwinyi was coming to the end of his term, there was a little bit of a scuffle who should become the next president. The elders sat and they said, Mkapa come next, and the other gentleman come after. I'm going to form an elderly pressure group.
Maybe we can work together.
An elderly pressure group that can give pragmatism.
So who would be coming before the other?
No, this group will not want for position, but it will want to put things correct. So this pressure group I'm talking about, the elders, is to try and map out a direction where our country should go. So my pressure group, which I want to form, and I'm inviting Omara first.
I'm coming.
We want to form a pressure group that will put this country in the right direction. For example, this last election, the one of Magufuli, there was a group of people who were very, very, very powerful, who wanted a particular leader to become the next candidate. They were very surprised when the pressure group of the elders went and sat down. They came out with the name of Magufuli. They couldn't believe it.
Led by Mzee Kikwete.
That's right.
Yes.
This other group, which had very, very powerful politicians who had been there, were left. They couldn't believe it. But there was one thing that went for Magufuli. He had been the minister of works, and he had performed exemplarily well.
Not corrupt.
Not corrupt. Now, this elderly group, which I'm talking about, we want them to bring everybody on board. And for us, we're not sectarian, whether young or old. We want good people. Good people who can run. I am tired of hearing this sectarian tones, old, young. Ugandans who have got the ability who have got merit to turn this country around and make it a country that we all love. I wish everybody a very good night.
What's the name of the pressure group?
No, it's still
the Elders Forum.
It's still a concept.
The Elders Forum.
Yes, it's still a concept. Honorable Minister, two comments here that someone is asking. If PLU is a pressure group, ask the Honorable Minister to tell us who it's pressuring. This is Okulu James from Lira. And also someone else says, please ask the Honorable Minister to explain transition and succession. Over to you, sir.
First of all, I'm not going to go into those. I'm not. But you will tell him to come to my office to take him through a lecture between transition and succession. It is on Parliament Avenue, ICT House. But let me again allay the fears of my brother, Honorable Mara. We are not moving from NRM. And let me also allay his fears.
I want you to prove me wrong in the future.
That we in the NRM are still for President Yoweri Museveni.
Okay.
And you should note the tweets of the general. He tweeted that when you fight my father, you fight me. And when you fight me, you fight my father. And therefore, if there is an MP you have talked to, And he thinks there is movement of power. You tell them to tame their egos. They should go there in principle to go and join the like-thinking Ugandans who want to do things
The right way.
the right way, and who are still following the historical mission of NRM. And that's what I really want to tell all Ugandans. That if they go there with a lot of ambitions, we shall tame those what? Ambitions. Because we in the leadership, that's why we have been appointed. To ensure we tame all expectations. We have an ideology, we have policies. As soon as we are ready, we shall put them on what? On table.
Okay.
But the issue, this is a pressure group. And
But you can be in more than one pressure group.
oh yes, you can.
So you can join the elderly.
You can even join the elderly, gentlemen. So long as it has a common, we are fighting for a common good and a common interest.
Okay, let me read some feedback that has come through. This is Sempagala Bonnie Jackson watching from Seguko says, the best elders like Mr. Babu and Wakida, thank them very much.